Welcome to Keeping It Entrepreneurial, the podcast where we unravel the tales of launching, scaling, and savoring success with your host, the king of B&B, Heath Green, and the property prince, Josh Shepler. Come along as we share our experience launching and scaling a seven-figure property management business that we built and sold, along with candid conversations with remarkable entrepreneurs who've mastered the art of business and have an unbridled spirit for entrepreneurship. Get ready to ignite your entrepreneurial soul and fuel your passion. This is where we celebrate the hustle, innovation, sacrifice, and struggle of building a life worth living. This is Keeping It Entrepreneurial.
Hey guys, welcome back to Keeping It Entrepreneurial. This is Heath. Unfortunately, Josh is out today. He's feeling a little bit under the weather, but I have two amazing people here today who are another entrepreneurial power couple duo. We have the lovely Tim and Jen Winter. So didn't switch those names with the first initials again like I did earlier before we started talking. But we have them on today, going to talk a little bit about entrepreneurship, community service, giving back, starting a nonprofit, and also the importance of customer service in your business. So let's just kind of jump right in, guys. We love to start the conversation.
Few things to talk about.
What would you say?
Just a couple things to talk about.
Just a couple things to talk about. And thank you guys. I know you guys are super busy. You guys just actually got back from Africa. So thank you for last minute jumping on and stepping in. But before we start the conversation of a little bit of what we want to get into in the meat potatoes, we always kind of like to give the opportunity for our guests to kind of flex at the beginning. So we'll kind of give this opportunity for you kind of to flex and highlight on all of your all successes, future endeavors, things that you all have accomplished in the past or anything like that. So let's go ahead and start with Tim. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so at a very high level, right? So I own a home building company, addition renovation company. We do work in Northern Virginia, the DC metro area. And most recently in the last year and a half, we've expanded into the Charleston, South Carolina market. And it's been growing. And then a year and a half ago, we also launched a company called HomeLux Architecture. So it's kind of a spin-off of the home building, another service business that we're able to kind of use to offer full design build services for our clients. And then HomeLux also has the ability to take on projects in other parts of the country. So we've been working on that. Started Paradigm about 17 years ago. And I've always, I wouldn't classify myself as an entrepreneur, even though that's the category that I probably fall into. But I've always been business minded ever since I was a kid. I started my paper route because I needed to buy some new Jordans and it's just, everything was a progression of things for me.
He still buys.
I still buy lots of Jordans.
You say the important things in life, right? You gotta look good.
Right. But then when I was 18, my dad was in the residential world of buying houses, fixing them up, and renting them out. So I've been around construction and real estate my entire life and kind of been involved in doing some projects with my dad. When I was 18, I bought my first house with him. He co-signed on the loan. He was actually my first project manager. And over the course of many years, I've had a lot of family members that actually worked for me along the way. My dad was the first one though. So, but yeah, I've always had that drive to do more, to do the right thing. And, that's kind of what Paradigm's about, taking care of our clients, making sure we're having a great client experience. Construction's a challenging business. It's the only one that I think that a client actually gets to be a part of the design process and the construction process and watch every little part and piece come together. So that in itself makes for a challenging, opportunity to please our clients.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, thank you. Jen, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Well, I just want to clarify first, I don't work for him. So even though we work together, I'm not one of the family members that work, but we do work together. But my role with Paradigm is acting chief marketing officer. I help with high level strategy, and most recently joined the Paradigm team after what I call a God layoff from a national newspaper. I was in their marketing department 2009, joined Paradigm 2012 after kind of trying some things, consulting work, things of that nature. And then 2014, we launched, which I think we'll get more into, but our nonprofit Paradigm Foundation, which is now my full-time kind of role when I'm not doing marketing things. And we are serving currently in 6 countries around the world. We serve the ultra poor, so people that live on less than $2 a day, and we are building homes in these communities for these people. So we work in and through the local church to kind of help elevate their communities in this way. And I think the most exciting thing is we have a new country we're launching this summer, and we are headed to the Amazon. So
Awesome.
it's really it's kept us on our toes. It's been super rewarding, and with each country we go to, we have to kind of start from scratch because we like to build culturally. So how they like to live, we don't want to come in with our, American eyes and tell them what they or how they should be living. And so we've done 6 countries, and we will be launching Amazon this summer.
And we've done over 60 homes and 2 churches, right?
And a resource center and a well.
Continues to go on and on. That's incredible. So I have, this is just absolutely amazing. And I have a couple of questions, kind of right off the bat. I guess I'll start with Jen. So me and you are similar, and I never thought I would enter into an entrepreneurial space. I was in a marketing background and stuff before as well. And then kind of through a relationship have now ended up into the entrepreneurship kind of thing. Talk to me a little bit about that, because I think we have listeners too that, oftentimes, especially growing up kind of in middle America or blue collar America, that you kind of think that you grow up, you graduate high school, you go to college, you get a degree, and then you kind of like follow this stair step. And entrepreneurship, I think, is something that's always so exciting, but also a little bit scary. Talk to us a little bit about the highs and lows of, when you were laid off of your job, kind of had this gap period where you were kind of doing consulting work, and then said, you know what, I'm going to deep dive into this, use my talents, and kind of help propel this business, and then to where you are now. Kind of talk to us a little bit about all that.
Yeah, sure. So like you said, I was born and raised Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It doesn't get much more blue collar than that. My dad worked for U.S. Steel. Pittsburgh's known for their steel mills. My grandfather was in the railroad, and, I was the first person in my family to go to college. So my dad had really set a track for me as far as his expectations of this is how you succeed in life. And it was to go to college into corporate America, work your way up the ranks that way. And so that's the path I took.
And then she married me and disrupted a whole train of thought that her dad put in her mind.
We met at Penn State.
You were the tornado.
My sophomore, his freshman year of college. And so I didn't really know what I was getting into when I met him. I didn't know. He comes from an entrepreneurial kind of family. Mine wasn't. I had a very successful career in the DC area. I worked for, I was on Capitol Hill for a while. I worked for several marketing firms, the national newspaper. I did, marketing for film studios and TV networks in the early online marketing days. When the internet was still kind of fresh. And so, I did the career track, and not to sound arrogant, I was good at it. I was good at my job. I was good at what I did. God had given me a brain of creativity. And so when I got laid off, I made it through 8 rounds of reorganization at the paper. And so when I finally got laid off, I was kind of like the last one to go. But it really was hard because my identity was in kind of that career path focus. And when I didn't have that, that's when I started consulting to try to see, okay, well, this is a good opportunity for me to kind of see if there's something else I want to do.
I tried to get her to start a couple different businesses. What about social media marketing? What about marketing? We did. We had winter marketing solutions that was intact for a little bit.
Finally we got to the point. He's like, well, you've helped all these Fortune 500 brands around the country. He's like, why don't you come help our company? And so that's kind of when we really talked, and I agreed to kind of come on board with this one and kind of follow his brain. But I decided to join Paradigm in 2013?
Yeah, around there, 13.
To really just kind of use my passion and expertise to pour into the brand that we had been working on, to really elevate it, bring it to a place in the market that allowed it to have a voice and more presence, and kind of, he has the brain to create the business, but he doesn't know how to communicate the business. So we spent a lot of time in the beginning kind of just really working together to create those talking points and the story of what's important to us, and how we could best serve clients.
So tell me a little bit about like the challenges, I guess I would say, as working as a couple. Like, is there anything that you all have like set in place that you're like, okay, this is how we work together, and this is how we like live together, and like try not to cross those things? Because it's hard.
I had to learn.
We had to learn that.
I had to learn to set boundaries very early on. It was very detrimental for our marriage at points.
You're at dinner, you're talking about business. You're getting ready for bed, you're talking about business. And finally, we're like, okay, we're going to dinner. Nobody's talking about business. It's when we get to the bedroom, there's no business talk. Like it's just setting those boundaries has been a big thing. And then just understanding, when the other person's not in the mood to talk about those kind of discussions, which is hard for me because that's all I want to talk about.
It can be constant. And when the business becomes almost a third member of the marriage, it makes things awkward and uncomfortable and not great if you don't have the right boundaries in place. And I think another thing that we did that was really good is that, we set the kind of the ground rules: no phones, goes past the threshold of our bedroom. We break that a lot, but we try. we try, to do things that will naturally kind of stop the, process of talking about work. So.
Yeah, I mean, it is hard. I mean, I feel like I'm literally reflecting on Josh and I at the same time. Because, and then there's other times where it's like, he could talk about, the other night he woke me up at 1:30 in the night. I'm always like dead asleep. And he's like, I have a new business idea. He like woke me up standing on my side of the bed, and I'm like freaking out, like, what's going on? And he was like, no, like I could go to sleep. And I'm like, can we talk about this in the morning? I'm not ready to process this at the moment.
I tell him, like, go write it down. Go to the notebook, write it down. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Same
Yes.
thing.
You definitely have to set boundaries and that kind of thing. So a little bit about customer service, because it's one thing that, getting to meet you guys and learning more about you all, I think you all do this at such a high level and exceed it. And I think, unfortunately, with technology, things are so at the fingertips, at the grasp of our consumers these days, that they feel like they're now the experts. But in reality, they're hiring us as a business owner to help them through whatever process or whatever business that you own. How do you all bring the customer back into the equation? And like you said, you all have the customer kind of throughout the entire process when you're building, but also to show them like, hey, I'm going to exceed your expectations. And talk to us a little bit about like things that you all do that set yourselves apart to make sure that you're always customer centric. Your team has a mindset of the customer, and a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I think one of the big things is you're exactly right. People's expectations have changed dramatically because in an instant we can get a text, we can get Amazon delivered in our doorstep the same day. Like there's all this instant gratification. But when you're going through a major renovation addition project or a brand new custom home, like unfortunately, that's the only industry that you can't snap your finger and have it show up. Right? It's still human capital that has to go in to build a lot of these projects. It's still material coming from other locations or even other countries that also requires humans to transport some of this stuff, whether they're driving a truck or a boat or whatever, to get it into the country. So that's probably the hardest thing, trying to navigate that. But then also, like you said, everybody's an expert because we live in the digital social media world, and everybody can talk about, building a house or renovating that they've never done it in their life, but they're an expert.
Everybody who watches HGTV.
And HGTV gives everybody this falsification of what Hollywood looks like. And so you have to overcome a lot of that. And so really for us, it's trying to establish trust. Trust in a sense of like getting them to buy into the process, to our people. So for us to deliver great customer service, we really have to train our team. We really have to spend time making sure that we're building leaders and that they're pouring into the client, because they handle the client day in and day out, way more than Jen and I do. So for us, we need to make sure we're constantly transferring that wealth of knowledge on how to pour into the client. So one of the things that we've just started doing is, so Paradigm Homes, I don't know if I mentioned the company name in the beginning, but Paradigm Homes is the company, and our goal, our BHAG, our big, hairy, audacious goal, is to be the Ritz-Carlton of custom homes. Maybe not the new Marriott version of Ritz-Carlton, but the old school name of Ritz-Carlton, where everybody like expected, high service, high quality. Now they're still out there, but so in order for us to do that, I actually just brought in a consultant that spent 16 years at Ritz-Carlton to come on and basically teach us and my team the nuances of how we can go above and beyond to deliver service that nobody else is doing in the custom building space, in the architecture space. And so we're always trying to innovate and think creatively on how to improve customer service, because at the end of the day, because of the new digital age that we're in, you could be torn down in seconds. So for us, we're trying to build something that, mistakes happen and things happen. And sometimes you're going to have, clients that just, you can't please. But if we can put a process and put our people in place and be able to achieve that, that's our goal, right? It's really to deliver a different level of service and communicate along the way, and all the things that you hear when you go, people talk about a construction project. What can we do to be different?
I think over communication too is a big key piece of what we're doing, and we incorporate that into our social media, even from the aspect of, if you're hearing a recurring theme from clients and concerns and or things that they thought are misrepresentation of the actual build process, we'll kind of take those things head on and kind of talk about them directly through social media, to just try to help navigate and avoid some of the potential conflict that could happen in the future.
Yeah, for sure. So there's a couple of things that stood out to me in that. So we always talk about, it's not I go, it's we go. And you use the word team multiple times. So I guess starting your entrepreneurial journey in your business, have you always been, I have the vision and the mission, I have a team that's, executing and working it. Have you always brought your team in on your vision and your mission and bringing them into your core values and everything? Or is that something that you learned later on?
So combination. So I've always had big dreams of growing a big organization. The name used to be Paradigm Building Group. And the beginning, the group was me. And people would ask, who's this group? What are you talking about? I said, don't worry, they're coming, right? They're coming. It's like the Field of Dreams. Like you build it, they will come. That was kind of my vision. If I build it, put it in the title, eventually it's going to be a group of people. And now there's 18 of them. So yes, it's a group, even though we've changed the name to Paradigm Homes. But so in the beginning, obviously it was me for the first year or two. But then progressively, as I got, more and more into leadership and some different things in training, I've always brought the team in. I'm even more so in the last probably 4 or 5 years. I hired an executive coach that has helped me a ton. With, empowering the team, equipping the team, giving the team a voice. The team sets a lot of our quarterly objectives. I just got out of a Q2 meeting this morning where the team, I just fine tuned it. They basically set the direction of what we're working on and what they're, our 5 rocks that we're working on for the quarter. So it's something that's always evolving. as I grow and I learn, and I'm able to empower my team to, lead themselves and then eventually lead others that they're training. That's something that's always important to me because I came from the corporate world prior to starting Paradigm, and in the corporate world you don't really have a voice. You're kind of a number, and I wanted to create a culture and an environment where people feel like they can be a part of something. They can communicate, they can be open, they can come to me. I have a open door policy. Come chat. You got a situation we want to talk about, a problem or something you want to solve. Let's work it out. So that's just something in the culture that we've created, and it's continuing to evolve as we, it's a focus, right? So it's something that I spend time on myself, leading and educating the team, and so hopefully that then transpires into how they lead and help our clients.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about, if you want a big life and a big business, I mean, you don't have to have a million people around you, but the people that you do surround yourself with you and that are on your team, they have to be bought into it too and be just a part of being able to carry out that mission just in case for some reason you weren't able to get up the next morning and carry it out. The vision still has to continue. And I think, like you said, when you empower them and to have a voice, they're always one step ahead of you typically because they're looking for opportunities and kind of ways to kind of fine tune things, or they're projecting on like, hey, this customer or this consumer is looking like this. Maybe we should change X, Y, and Z. So it's always a little bit more insightful. So throughout the development and everything, this nonprofit has become a big passion, and it's something that I'm highly intrigued of. And I think, most of the times as entrepreneurs, or even if you're not owning your own business, if you're just working for someone else too, it's always hard to combine your passions with your work. But some people do it really, really well, and I think you guys are two of those people that are like succeeding at a high level at that. And I think the mission and the vision are huge. I mean, 6 countries and continuing to grow, I mean, that's incredible. Talk to me a little bit about like why you wanted to start a nonprofit. What's one thing that somebody should know about starting a nonprofit, and then we can kind of go from there.
Let me jump in. So the thing that was interesting about this is when I first wrote the initial business plan for Paradigm 17 or 18 years ago, there was a section in there about giving back, saying at some point we want to take, be good stewards, take our talents and money and be able to give back in another way. Jen's got a much better giving and caring heart than I do, but I've learned over the years, it's easier for me to kind of, give a check than give the time or the energy. But what I've learned over the years is really just that the time is almost more important than the money, right? Anybody can, not anybody, but a lot of people can write a check and feel good about themselves. But you go on one of these trips, you do something that's involved. The time's very, very, much more meaningful than any check that you'll ever write. But yeah, I'll let you kind of tell where the story.
Yeah, we have a saying that I like to say, and it's give back and you get more. So many people either give to the nonprofit. So we have individual donors, but then we also give back to the business. So for every home that is built, we give a portion of the funds for someone else to get a home around the world. So in addition to that, we also take people on build trips to go see these places in person, learn about the cultures, learn about the disparity and the poverty, just to, world perspective, and broadening that is so important in life. If you stay in your own bubble, you're missing out on a lot. We have a lot of friends and family in Pittsburgh who think we're crazy for going to Africa once a year or going to the Amazon or whatever. But we really feel like God is called us to this. And, John Maxwell has a quote too, that the highest level of living is giving. And so we just both, God really planted in our hearts the gift of giving back. And we think that's a reflection of him in our life. And, it's just a joy. It's just a joy to be able to be used in this capacity. And, I thought I was going to be on my, career path in corporate America. So the fact that we're now
10 years later.
Yeah, it's a blessing too, because we see now why we're together. Not that we didn't have things in common before, but it really aligns. Like, I've always had a heart for Africa. I didn't know why. Now I know why. He always had a heart for building. And when uh, the idea for the nonprofit kind of got planted in my brain, God was like, well, I gave you a builder husband. So it kind of just naturally all came together, and has been just super rewarding, and not a path I ever thought I was going to be on. But we love being able to share it with other people. We love being able to tell the stories of the families that we're serving. And it's way more about us. And that's what makes it so much fun to be a part of.
And I think that you
So
asked,
what's
you know,
one
what
thing that you would
advice?
want to tell yourself when you first started, I guess?
Ooh,
Hey, like if you're going to start a nonprofit, I wish I would have
yeah,
known this before I ever began.
yeah. Don't have any fear. Just do it.
Mm.
If the idea is in
Mm.
your heart, God will give you the people to surround you, the wisdom that you need. Like, one of my biggest fears, to be totally transparent, was fundraising. I didn't want to ask anybody for any money. I didn't, that felt icky to me. I didn't want to do it. I didn't like it. And outside of fundraisers that we've done, we've never had to ask for a dollar. It's all just come in. God has planted the seeds in people's hearts to give. And people have given freely, and we are so grateful for that. But I would really say, like, any fears or concerns you have, just do it. You'll be rewarded for stepping out in faith and proceeding forward.
And don't listen to
So what?
the naysayers. Don't listen to the people say you're crazy. Why are you going to do that? Right? That's just noise.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably insecure in their own way because they want to do something similar and they never did it.
Yeah.
So has your vision for this sector of your all's life and business, is it grown much more than you thought when you initially, or did you all have, hey, I want to be in X amount of countries and build X amount of homes, and you feel like you're on that trajectory, or has like that totally shifted?
Yeah.
Depends on who you ask. If it's me, I want to be in every single country. I want to be building houses all over the state. I want to be, everywhere, right? She's like, how about we just do one or two?
I operate with our country partners, but within the States, I pretty much operate solely. So the idea to me to be in 6 countries and have all of these churches that we're working with and leading these build trips and doing the marketing for it all, it gets to be a lot and overwhelming. So when he's like, yeah, let's take on 3 more countries, I'm like, what are you talking about? It gets a little overwhelming, but at the same time, it has been so exciting just to see the new cultures and continue to evolve the process. And there's organic things have been coming out of each country, as far as like widow groups getting together to make what would you call them,
Jewelry.
like jewelry or like little items to sell so that they can care for themselves. Or a pastor in the Dominican Republic had taken in some kids that cannot afford to go to college. So he's training them skill sets that they could use to then go out and find work on our build site. So there's a lot of organic things that we never even thought of.
It's much more than building a house.
Yeah.
The community impact has that's probably the biggest thing I think.
Mm-hmm.
The takeaway for us is one, is much bigger than us, and 2, it's not just about building the houses, and 3, the way in which Jen structured this through the community, through a local church, it's empowering the community. It's empowering others to help their neighbors, and you're really seeing the church and other community members step in and really help that. And I think you're going to see generations change many ways, not just those that have received houses, but those that are giving back in their own way to I mean, we're talking some of the poorest people in the world are taking time to go help a neighbor, right? I mean, that's crazy. We don't see that here in the States sometimes at all.
I was going to say there's one thing that really stuck out to me when you all were first talking to and other conversations that we've had. You all don't go into it and just want to like totally disrupt the market and just like, hey, I'm going to plant this house here and like turn around and leave. Like your all's mission is much bigger than that. It's like starting from the ground up and truly building relationships and things that are going to like spread and truly like catch on like wildfire and change the trajectory of everyone around them, which becomes a ripple effect. And then next thing you know, one house or one occurrence or interaction changes everyone's life. And I think sometimes here in the States, we oftentimes forget about that like one conversation or one meeting with someone can truly change the trajectory of someone's life. And one thing that you all said too, like, do you all feel like now that you have given more of your time, you all have also gotten time back, but it's also changed the trajectory of your business back here in the States?
I think so. I mean, I've not really analyzed it, but absolutely. I mean, because, going on those trips and people seeing, the pictures that we post and the stories that we tell, we're giving other people opportunities that may never be able to get there to go see some of the stuff, right, firsthand. So, yeah, giving the time. I mean, I would say, yeah, there's definitely some things that come back into the business. People hire us because of that side of the business, and it shows that we care more than just about ourselves and making money, which you need to make money as a business, but there's much more to it. And so for us, like Paradigm Homes, one of our core purpose is to create a lasting impact, and we do that a couple of different ways, and one of those is through the Paradigm Foundation. And so you can't make a lasting impact if you don't spend time helping somebody else do something, whether it's an employee that you're pouring into, or it's a client that you're helping, or it's someone where you're giving a house to, or something. Like impact starts with one person helping one person, right? And so that's our goal, to do that. So.
And Tim does offer his staff the opportunity to go on a build trip at some point so that they could see. We have a sign in our office that says every day your role has impact. And so them knowing that them serving their clients well, building these houses, whatever their role is at Paradigm Homes, it's affecting someone around the world, whether they're thinking about it or not. So having them come on these trips with us is another way to kind of show them that, their role is having impact.
That's incredible. I mean, I think it's so cool to see how other businesses, take the ego out of the business. And I think once you're able to kind of remove that from the equation, like it's just like this synergy that happens, and like everybody's working for one another to impact their customers. They realize it's not about them. When a difficult situation or phone call kind of comes in, they're like, okay, let's take a deep breath. I am human. I might react a certain way, but it's not about me. There's an issue from the other side. And I think you're always able to give a little bit more value. But so kind of in conclusion, have a couple of questions for you, kind of like rapid fire. And either one of you can answer, both of you can answer. Curious if maybe even you have the same answer. But what would be your definition of success?
I think for me, it's that impact, right? Having somebody come back and say, Tim, you didn't know this or realize this, but you helped me achieve this, right? Or something like that. It's having that individual impact or group collective impact is how I would define success, because that's what's important to me.
I would say aligning discernment and wisdom for God's will for my life, and being on that path and knowing that I'm on that path.
Stellar answers. Who are a couple of your all's mentors? And are they mentors that you all are listening to, going to watch, or actual people in your life? Or tell us a little bit about that.
So I created an advisory board for my company about 13 years ago. So I have 5 different men on the group that are all in different categories of business, whether it's business ownership, a nonprofit, the mortgage business, a tech company. So I've got those guys. So when I need something specific, kind of either business or personal, I've got good friends there, good leadership there. But then I've had, my uncle's been a big mentor in my life. Then from a listening, I mean, I'm a big John Maxwell fan. So I would say there's some, and I listen to Ed Milet's podcast, religiously. So definitely listening from those kind of guys has been impactful, especially as I'm trying to add value and impact, my team and those around me. Those are two great leaders that I like to listen to.
Mine is more so. We also have an advisory board for the foundation, so we have several couples that surround us, and kind of we talk through challenging and hard things, or just celebrate all that's happening with the ministry. But also just reading books, like Kelly Minter. I love her books. Christine Kane. I read a lot of her stuff, and just anything along those lines that kind of help me grow the nonprofit. Just because I don't have a lot of experience with things like that.
Yeah. So what's one book that you would recommend anybody in business, whether they own or just working in business, that they should be reading right now?
Oh, wow. There's so many. I'll tell you what I'm reading right now. I'm actually reading Deion Sanders' new book, Elevate and Dominate. And it's really good because it's simple and it applies to everybody. It's not just, a leader. It applies to a kid that's in high school. It applies to someone that's, kind of in retirement. Like, just, it's some life skills that I think, Deion is all about pouring into kind of young men is his passion right now. So he's got a lot of good stuff in there about that, not just for men, but also for just general information. So, I would definitely recommend it. It's an easy listen. I listen to most of my books, but so yeah, that's what I'm listening to now. Yeah.
Mine is probably finished the John Maxwell Intentional Living book. That's good. Just talking about making space in your life. Another one I like is The Best Yes by Lisa TerKeurst. Again, having that margin in your life for things like joining the Paradigm Foundation on a trip. That's a little plug. And then reading right now a book by Andy Andrew called Braving Change. And so I'm halfway through, so I can't give a full review yet, but it's a good book.
We'll have to have you back on to give another review of that one.
Book report.
So a question for you too, because I think we saw this huge shift during COVID. So many people kind of realized when the world halted that, like, hey, am I doing what I'm supposed to in life? And like, so many career changes, life changes happen. And then now I think people are like, also like, they're stuck in this day to day. So they made these changes and they're either stuck or they're like, I didn't make them and I should have. What would you tell somebody, like a piece of advice, who feels like they're stuck in that day to day grind on what to do to move forward?
Great question. Sometimes I get stuck there too. I think it's just a part of life. You kind of get into a rut and sometimes you get stuck. But, for me, it's those, either the mentors, the book that I'm listening to or reading, it's my executive coach. It's having people around me to pull me out of the mud when I'm stuck. And I think that's how you truly elevate, is surrounding yourself with people that are going to hold you accountable. Like, extreme accountability is huge. Being disciplined, you can be very disciplined, but you also need somebody to hold you accountable. So for me, when I need to get unstuck, I usually got to go to somebody that's been in a similar situation or dealing with something similar. And thankfully, I've got a pretty good network of not only advisors, but also friends and family that I can rely on. So I think that's a big one for me.
I lived in that area of stuck for three or 4 years before I joined Paradigm and started the nonprofit. And so I'm very familiar with this space. And I would say, step out in faith, get out of your comfort zone. I was trying to stay in my lane because it's what I knew, but it's not what I was supposed to be doing. And so really, get out there, have lunches with people, ask questions of things that are piquing your interest. Kind of just put yourself out there. If I hadn't taken the step of faith to go on this trip to the Dominican Republic to do anti-human trafficking work, when it was a time when I felt like I was in a dark place. I didn't feel like I could help myself, but I went. If I hadn't gone on that trip, the foundation would have never been born. So, it's just taking that, being aware of where you're at, deciding you don't want to be there, and then taking that step of faith out of it.
And having somebody to push you a little bit too.
Sometimes.
So that kind of leads me to like some closing thoughts real quick. So what's one, because I'm very curious about this, has there been a life lesson or an experience through your all's travels and giving back through your foundation that you wish the rest of the world would be able to hear?
Such a good question. There's so much. There's so much.
I was gonna say, I feel like you could probably do a whole like series on this, but is there anything that like kind of sticks out?
What we hear often with people that we take on the trips is how joyous people are that have so little. And I think that, we get caught up, and us as well, like in such a materialistic society of work harder to get more, to do more, this run the rat race, run the cycle. And these people that we have the privilege of serving with and serving, they don't have much, but they are so happy and they are so grateful. And so I think just finding gratefulness in the little things, and in each day finding something that you're appreciative of, because these people literally live in mud huts. They live in dirt, they're sick, but they're still joyful. And
yeah, I was gonna say joy is like contagious, and I feel like even just like watching your all's videos, and I'm dedicated to go on one with you all one day, but just watching your all's videos and your picture,
we got this on video.
yeah, hey, it's recorded, so it has to happen. Yes, but like you watch your all's like stories while you all are over there, you can see that they're in like tough situations, but you can always see joy on their faces, and I think that's something that's so true. You do have to find joy in life, no matter the circumstances. So as we kind of wrap up, tell us how people can follow you all, where they can find you all on social media, and then how they could get involved in your all's foundation if they would like to.
Yeah, so my Instagram is @winterbuilds, and you can also follow @the Paradigm Homes on Instagram, Facebook, and then
you can follow @Paradigm Foundation. We're on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm @JenWinter11 if you'd like to follow me personally. But if you have any interest in the build trips, everything's on our website, paradigmfoundation.org. You can reach out to us through there, or if you want to DM us on any of the social media sites. I manage it all, so I will make sure to get it and respond to you. But we usually go to Africa once a year, so that'll be next March. And then we have a trip coming up to the Dominican Republic in September for anybody that wants to join.
Yeah, and if you want to build a house in the DMV or Charleston, let us know. And if you want to design a house anywhere in the country, we can help you with that too.
Yeah. I mean, the whole consulting thing on the designing of a house anywhere, like, I think that's brilliant. And I think you've like truly found a cool niche. So yeah, definitely check both of them out. And then Jen did put her personal Instagram in there. She's a huge foodie and traveler. So if you ever need inspiration on where to eat or where to go, I'm sure you're going to find some amazing content there. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us today. And we'll definitely be having you back.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Keeping It Entrepreneurial. And be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Don't forget to check out the show notes for those actionable items to stay engaged for future episodes and how to stay connected with Josh and Heath. And if you found value in today's episode, leave us a review and please share with others.